The 9th of September 2007, 997, and here we are with Sid Rawle in his goddess temple, this beautiful circular garden. And I've just come to speak to Sid because it seems timely, 40 years on from 1967, to commemorate and celebrate the Summer of Love. And I was only 8 years old in 1967, so I think Sid has a few years ahead of me. Tell me what was going on in 1967, Sid, and what was your vision and your dream in 1967? What were you trying to do?
Don't they say that if you can remember what was going on, you weren't there?
Okay.
No, I mean, 1967 was absolutely wonderful because there was a whole, certainly all over the English-speaking world, youth revolution happened. I say the English-speaking world because it didn't necessarily go much further than that, I don't think. What I think happened at that point in time was that the Second World War had happened, 18 to 20 years before, and the whole world had got completely screwed up, especially the English-speaking world, but actually the whole world had got very, very screwed up with the Second World War. So the first time that love and light could possibly come through was with the post-war generation who knew nothing about the war at all. And if you look at that whole phenomenon of 1967, 99% of people involved in it were between the age of 12 and 20. It really didn't get to people over 20, and obviously people under 12 were a bit young to be involved with it independently anyway.
Yeah, I was oblivious. At 8, go on.
So, I see it as, for me personally, I always explain it that we came through after the war to actually change that culture that had got screwed up by 2 world wars in the pre-20s and in the 40s. And something had to change. Now, not enough has changed. So what happened in 1967? The music came together. The musicians tended to be people who were older by 5 to 10 years to everybody else. I don't think that contradicts what I was saying because I have always found the musicians to be problematical in that an awful lot of them, I think, had wonderful gifts to give humanity, but we wrote far too much into those gifts. So they weren't necessarily singing the songs we thought they were singing anyway. We interpreted the words to what we wanted to hear as opposed to necessarily what they were singing.
Who were the singers and the bands that really touched your heart back in the late 60s then? Who really inspired you?
I don't know. People like Incredible String Band, I suspect, were, Captain Beefheart, Grateful Dead. 1974 in Windsor Great Park. We had, after a 10-day festival, we had a huge riot. The police, untrained in how to control crowds in a field, not a very clever thing to try and do at the best of times, but certainly untrained Thames Valley police tried to clear Windsor Great Park of thousands of people who had been festivaling there, who'd got their tents pitched, who had vehicles all over the place, who were just having a free festival. And in the middle of this was the Krishna temple. They'd got a really nice tent, and they'd put it up in the middle, and that's where they did the food, and that's where they did their chanting. And the police came in at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and a battle went on all day, because they didn't know what to do. We resisted what they were trying to do. And so it just was really a skirmish and scramble all over the park. And all the time the Krishna temple just kept chanting and chanting and chanting. And the police didn't go near them, and we left them alone, so the police didn't get involved with them, and they chanted away and chanted away, in the middle of absolute chaos that was going on all round them. And in the end, of course, people gave up and went home. I mean, it's what people do. And so in the end, the police won to the extent that they got the people out of the park. And then they sort of marched up to the Krishna temple in the middle, where people just stopped chanting, took down their tent, put it in the vehicle, and jumped on board and drove off. And I watched all that happening, and after that I always had this sort of great respect for the Krishnas, because they could have gone first off. They could have said, "Oh, look at this, hang on a minute, ladies and gentlemen, put the tent in the wagon, let's go." And they didn't do that. They stayed till last, or till virtually last.